I'm recording it for the people that cannot show up. Some of you, I know your names, and this is really nice. I love having people back again and getting to see your faces and learning who you are a bit more. I run office hours every Tuesday night for the most part, from 7 to 8. I just put on Zoom and I sit here and I work on stuff, and you are welcome to drop in and just chit chat like we just were, or you can come and ask questions about class, ask for questions about, you know, what do I do with the rest of my life? And Mrs., you know, Dr. Weibel, what do you want me to do about it? What do you think I should do? I have no problem with that either. Being a high school teacher, I did lots of that. You know, you should be a nurse. Why would I want to be a nurse? Because I think you'd be a good one. I won't tell you to switch careers now, but, you know. So there's all of that on Thursday nights from 7 to 8. If you cannot make it in then, email me and say, listen, we need to have a little chit chat, or I've got this problem. Those of you that have had me in class before and emailed me about anything, you know that I try to be right on top of my emails, because otherwise I forget about them and they go a week before I answer them. So if you don't hear back from me in about 24 hours, shoot me another email and say, hey, listen, I sent you this and you didn't get back to me. Don't know if I got lost. I will not be insulted. If it's 5 minutes or 3 o'clock in the morning, then I'm probably not answering you. But I might, you know. It might be sleep text, but, you know, I'll answer you. So you can have me set up a meeting with you anytime, for the most part, about any time that you have a free moment that you can log in and talk. We can talk on the phone. We can email. We can do office hours by individual like that at any point in time. But I am on here usually Tuesday nights from 7 to 8. I'll let you know if I'm going to have to. You know, one time I was stuck in an airport because we had 4 flights delayed and whatever. There was no way I could do office hours, so we set it up for another night. So that is always there if you have questions, if you have problems, if you have anything you need to talk to me about. This class runs a little different than my class. It was not designed by me. I've made some tweaks to make it more user-friendly, I feel. I know that there are some issues that people are having with getting the book. And the book was supposed to be posted online when you register for the class, but it was not, along with the master course syllabus. The book looks like this. It is Classroom Instruction That Works. And it is by Dean, Hubble, Pittler, Stone, 2nd edition. I am going to scan in some things for people if as soon as I get to a scanner that works better than just my phone taking pictures. And I will have that posted in case you cannot get the first chapter or 2. You can also look it up on Google Books, and you can read spotty a little bit, but you can read through the first chapter or 2, and you can get the table of contents if you want to look at that more in depth before you pick the chapter that you want to be presenting. So if you don't have the book yet, don't sweat it. If you've had me in class before, I am pretty easygoing. I fully believe that you are an online student, and you pick an online student because your work, your life, and your work around outside of this do not necessarily mesh with a set date and time that you have to be there for something. You're going to pick a night that you are going to present. I do expect you to try and make your life work that you can be there for that night. The other classes, I will have a makeup assignment. You can watch the video and make up most of the points for that. There are only a few points each, so it's not, because there's only 100 points set up for this class. But you can miss the session and not like kill your grade completely. I will have a makeup for at least most of the points for it. I think it's 3 points per session, so 2 of the 3 points you would make up by watching the video and writing a short summary or something like that. We are going to try and change a little bit from the some of the way that the course is written as well. Required you to teach your lesson in order to gain all of your points. That's not feasible with some people. Some people are substituting. Some people are not in a classroom setting. They're in a work setting. Some people are in a place where the curriculum is very, very scripted, and you are not allowed to make a lot of changes that are not across the board for all the students, so which I've had in the past. So you're going to write your lesson plans. I have a template there. you can use my template or you can use one that makes more sense for you. I do want you to script out, not word for word what you're saying, but general actions that you would be taking. For example, small group work, this is the kind of thing that they're going to be doing. If you would like to put some text in to kind of show how you're using that, that's fine. The example that I have for you is very scripted. I'll show that to you in a little bit. But I'm okay with it being a little less step-by-step and scripted out the whole way with every word that you might say, and more general plan of action, because I know as a teacher, your lesson plans sometimes, unless you're getting observed, are like 3 lines that say this, this, and this, and you're done. And then your objectives are over on the side, and they don't necessarily, like, there may be objectives for the week or whatever. I'm going to ask for your lesson that you do, that you connect the objectives to the task that we're talking about, the strategy we're using this week, to the theory that you feel fits it, whether it's behaviorism, social constructivism, or whatever, and that you reflect on it, whether you teach it and you reflect on how the lesson went, or you reflect on the planning process and how you actually thought about integrating the strategies in a way that you hadn't before. If you don't teach it, you're going to reflect on how the planning kind of went. And I'm not going to dock you points for not teaching it. I'm going to kind of give you bonus points for teaching the lesson and actually having that as a part of your reflection. So please make it clear if you do teach it so that I know to put those in there for you. And that kind of solves the problem of people that don't have access to people to teach. So if you're a substitute and you're, you know, sitting in study hall all day, every day, there's no way you can teach a lesson to students. So it would be, I feel it would be wrong of me to penalize you for that. So that's why we kind of, I've made it optional to teach it, but I'd like you to try if you're able to. The other thing, the other thing with this is, like I said, you can use any lesson plan format that makes sense for you, as long as I can see the pieces in there that are listed on the one that I have. So I can see, you know, the age group that you're looking at, the objectives, how you're trying to structure your lesson, those kind of pieces. So just try and make sure everything's in there. Add in a column if you have your own lesson plan format or whatever. I'm not really picky with that. As long as you're telling me and demonstrating that you're understanding what we're trying to do with this, which is basically 9 strategies that you're going to be trying out in your classroom over the 8 weeks, I'm fine with it. The due dates that are on there, I've chunked them. The due dates on actual assignments are probably not, I didn't go through and change all those, I don't think. But the due dates on the syllabi, like chapters 1, 2, and 3 are due by this time. Chapters 2, 4, 5, and 6 are due by this time. I tried to chunk them in 2-week chunks of time. You can incorporate the lessons in any order that you want for those ones. So if it's like weeks 2, 3, and 4 are for weeks 2 and 3. I'm sorry, chapters 2, 3, and 4 are situated within weeks 2 and 3. I don't care if you do lesson 4, lesson 2, lesson 3, however you want to put those. If you think that it fits so that all of them work together in the same lesson and you can demonstrate that you are hitting the strategies with each one, please submit it 3 times. That's the only busy work I'm going to ask you to do, because if you don't submit it for it, then my brain has to remember that I have to go back in and put the grade in for this or that. And I'll be honest, I'll have great intentions of doing it, and it's probably going to happen about 50% of the time. So if you did one lesson that has chapters 2 and 3 strategies in it, please submit it for chapter 2 and for chapter 3. Same lesson. As long as they're in there and you kind of like highlight, this is lesson 2, or chapter 2 and chapter 3 strategy. You know, this is, you know, this week we're going to talk about setting objectives. So I'm going to highlight setting objectives. I'm going to highlight, here's providing feedback or whatever. And that way I can see where you've put the strategies into there, and you can turn them in and you can double dip if you feel like they work together. Some of them don't really work together very well. You probably, you know, patch them together in the same lesson, but if it doesn't make sense, it's going to be hard for you to teach it anyway. And I would like you to be able to make these lessons applicable for the classroom that you're in, or the classroom that you want to be in, or the work environment that you would like to be at. So if you're substituting this year and you're sitting in a study hall room, or you're doing like cyber school monitoring or something like that, which is somebody I had last semester, think about where you want to be. I don't want to be a cyber school monitor next year. I want to be a 4th grade teacher. So if I'm going to teach 4th grade, this is a objective, you know, these are a series of lessons that I could use for 4th grade. And then you have those there whenever you start doing your interviews and things like that, you already have them prepped. Or lessons that are available for that. Or if you happen to be, for example, in a museum setting and you're working with interns that from a college and you have to do some training with them, try your strategies out as, you know, little mini lessons with them. You know, today we're going to talk about how you're going to present these materials for students that come in. You know, you're going to teach the students to write lessons for the kids that are coming in or something like that. So try and make it applicable whether you're in a classroom or somewhere else. And if you need help with that, come in at office hours, email me and we'll set up a time we can talk. I can usually figure out a way to spin it so it works somehow. There's been 1 or 2 places that we could figure out one. So then they did lessons for like Bible school, or they did lessons for Girl Scouts or something like that. We'll make it work. There's not necessarily a big rubric that I use for this. There's one that's in there. I'm a little flexible with it. So as long as you are making a really good, honest attempt at doing what I need you to do, if you happen to be in like a two-year-old preschool, you know, it's going to look a whole lot different than an AP chemistry class. So there is some flexibility with how I look at the rubric, but for the most part, if I grade you and you think that there's an issue with it, email me. And I do not have a problem with mastery learning. So if I give you a really bad grade on an assignment and you don't want to keep that grade and you're willing to do the work to fix it and resubmit it, I will get to it eventually. Maybe not the next day or the next week, but by the end of the semester, by the end of the 8 weeks that we have, I'll get to it. I will regrade it. I don't have any problem. And you can do that at any time. And they should be set to allow you to submit more than one time, but if they're not, let me know and I'll fix it. Or you can email it to me. So with that said, in the class, in case you have not, okay, so first of all, in case you've never used Zoom, you get 40 minutes with up to 50 people for free. You can use this for video conferencing. You can use it for like cyber lessons. You can use this tool for providing feedback, conferencing, screen recording, sharing documents and doing voiceovers. It's a really fantastic tool, and this fits into what we're talking about tonight in a minute here. I'm going to share my screen though with you, and you can see my nice Central Michigan screen here right now. I'm going to find where, hold on 1 second. All right, so this is what the class looks like. You have announcements, and you're going to see all the announcements now that I've set up so I don't forget them. That are in here. This is the textbook that you do need. If you have a way to share it with somebody, I'm fine with that. There's a Flipgrid that is used for introductions. I see people have been introducing themselves already. Flipgrid is also a free tool. I won't tell you anything that's not free for the most part. So you guys are actually, have you been creating your own Flipgrids? I checked in earlier. If you go to my Flipgrid that was on the front of this, hold on. I click on this link. There's all your Flipgrids that you've been doing. Some of you are responding. I think it's really nice for you to get to see each other's faces and get to meet each other. If you have not done this yet and you have an issue with having your face on social media, you can aim it at your cat, a cat picture, a paper that has a nice little smiley face, you know, sketched on it. I don't care. Flipgrid's a free tool. It's a great video discussion board, and you can always use it for feedback, which is chapter 8. Okay, so as you make your presentation materials, I'd like you to drop them into here. And then these ones I have subscribed for, so I do get emails if you leave a message on here, so I should be able to reply back unless my phone decides to be a little wonky. Under weekly tasks, everything's in a folder. And this week we are doing chapter 1, and everything's freezing here right now, so there we go. Okay, so in this week, this is basically how every week except week 8 is set up. Here's your objectives, here's what you do. This is the chat session, by the way. This is your essay. It should look a little familiar if you've had other classes like 590, perhaps. You can use the scenario you've used for that, but please don't use the same task. Make it fit what we are working on in this one. That's used for programmatic assessment, and it's also an assignment for you that if you make an honest effort, you're going to get the points for it. If it's really short or doesn't fit the task whatsoever, I'll send it back to you and have you redo it. Here's the PowerPoints. I'm using adapted ones for class, and there's a template. And then if you have this on here, it looks like this little piece of paper with a bent corner. Those are your assignments. So if you've not looked at Blackboard, if this is your first class, when you click on here, this gives you the place to submit your assignment. Okay, and you would either upload or else copy and paste it in and hit submit. It should be set so that you are able to submit more than one time. So if you screw up, just submit it again. I'll grade the final one. If you want to redo on something, then submit it again for that. When it talks about reflection, this is the, did somebody say Jen?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
This is Amy. I was just curious, is it okay to, like, I use the Drive or the Google Drive, and I usually share the link instead of uploading, because I noticed that I don't always upload it the right way.
Okay.
Is that okay, or is that not okay?
No, as long as you set it so that I can have access to it, I'm fine with that. Using this share link versus my email is probably safer to giving me access, because I use 3 different Gmail accounts. I have one that's more general. It's J Weeble, because Weebles wobble, they don't fall down, and J Weeble does fall down, but that's where I ended up with, is J Weeble. Then I have one specifically associated with Central Michigan email address. Sometimes when you share them to me, people share them to me, they put in the email address, and it's not easy for me to access it. If you use the link, it's not a problem. So you put the link in here in a way that, let me find it down here. If you're putting a link in here, if you write submission and then you put your link. So there's my link. Okay. Beautiful link, isn't it? If I click on that and highlight the whole thing and then use this little link right here, for those of you that don't know, that's how you make a hot link. I would type in my link. Let's say, here's my Flipgrid. I would open it in a new window. You don't have to. You're not going to lose points if you don't, but that makes it easier. And then you do insert, and that makes it a hot link, so I can click on it and go right to it. You can be fancy and just type, like, this is my submission, and, you know, put the link in there or whatever. If you put it in there as, I cancel it out. Hold on one second. If you put it in there under the notes, it's taking a while. If you don't use the right, if you don't use this right submission and you do it under here under add comments, it won't let you give a hot link. Get a hot link. So using the right submission gives you the hot link. It's a minor point. I can do it anyway and make it work. I can copy and paste it in, but that's just something to make it a little bit more professional for those of you that want to do it that way. I'm fine with it. You all need to sign up for presentation. You can pick from 3 dates that fit your schedule. They're all on Tuesday night, and they are from 8 until 9-ish. Some people have already signed up for one. Once there's somebody in every block, then you're welcome to add a 3rd one in, but I'd like you to try and stay to 2 of them in a block, and so nobody has to present alone. 3/12, which is next Tuesday. And then on week 4, 3/26. We have to jump to week 7, which is 4/19 then instead of week 6, because I am actually in air coming back from a conference then, and I can't be on week 6. So I moved it to 7 so that I know that I'm around for it. And then week 8, you have a unit planner, a paper, or an article to do. So this is a way for you to connect to each other and also to sign up for it, because otherwise it's hard to find your email on here for people that are within your class. And here's a few technologies, and I'm going to show you a couple more tonight then too. So that's how all the classes set up. The final project, the last one, the last week, it's being all weird. The last week you have 3 things to pick from. You can write me a research paper. So if you like grading papers, then write me a research paper. You can pick a unit plan and create one of those. So you could even take all of the lessons that you have done for this and you could incorporate them into a unit and then write me a couple pages at the beginning to kind of frame it out how these all tie together and how you're using them. Or you could write a unit of your own. That's probably the most time intensive if you're writing your own. Or you can do an article review where you pick an article from a peer-reviewed journal, you summarize it and talk about it, and then reflect on how it impacts your teaching. That's the final project. And then you're going to go back through your philosophy, instruction, and assessment. So that's the class as a whole. Does anybody have any questions on the class?
I have one question.
Sure.
April 19th is a Friday. Is that
Ooh.
right?
No, what did I do wrong?
Thank you, I noticed that.
The 16th is the Tuesday.
Okay, I'll fix that.
Okay, it's okay. I was just double checking to
No,
plan.
I'm really glad you did because I have no idea what I did that made it wrong. I have it right on this one.
Oh, on the where it says the Zoom thing, it says 419. So I was just double checking.
No. I'm really glad you told me because obviously I did not see that.
So it is the 16th?
It is the 16th.
Okay.
It's the 16th on everything else, I think, but not on this one. So I'll fix that. There, thank you. And I'm not one of those people that if I have something that's broken link or it's screwed up that I don't want you to tell me. I want you to tell me because, you know, I don't know why I didn't catch that.
It's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And then let me find the other thing and make sure that it's good.
While you're looking at that, I noticed on the same announcement that we're having 4 meetings and you put 3 down. Just so you know.
Well, there's 3 class meetings where you're presenting and there's one now, but you're right. I see that too. Okay, so, well, it used to be the way the class was originally written. She had you meeting every week. So there was 8 meetings in 8 weeks, and that was too much. Nobody wants to see my face 8 weeks in a row. I mean, you can come to office hours if you really want to, but you know. So just decides to let me move. Yeah, that one's wrong too. It's 16. Chelsea, I know you're on here. Kelly, are you on here too? That this is okay to make it 16, which is what it was supposed to be?
Yeah,
that's fine.
Okay, great. Yay. Otherwise, I screwed things up really badly. Okay, perfect. Thank you guys for letting me know that. And is there any other questions about the class, the way the class goes, how it's set up, the kind of work that you're going to be doing with it? Okay, perfect. There, now we're all fixed, as far as I can tell. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing on that. And I'm going to share it to the Word document that I have as a sample lesson plan. This is a sample lesson plan that I have in there available for you to download. This is one that was just kind of given to me as one commonly used, they said, in the education program at Central Michigan. It's in there, you can download it. I don't care if you give me this. I don't care if you script it out for me. If it makes you work better, if it's something your district requires, then please do it. Otherwise, I'm okay with, pass out the story, tell them to do this first. As you read it aloud, do this, this, and this. And if this is, perhaps a lesson on share objectives or setting objectives or something like that. Whatever my, maybe it's on collaboration or something like that. Whatever my strategy for the week is, I would really appreciate it if you would, let's say, if this is supposed to be on collaboration, and so you set this, I don't know why it's not letting me do this. Probably because I'm sharing this screen. But right here where it says the end of the paragraph and discuss with a shoulder partner. If that is the strategy that you're using to, let's say, collaborate, then if you would highlight that for me, that would be really fantastic. Because then I am sure that this is specifically what you are using for your strategy, and it helps me really fine-tune feedback for you on what you're using for your strategy and how you're incorporating it in your lesson. And I can give you other ideas if I think of something that maybe would help or be a different way to approach it, compared to, kind of going through it and being like, well, I think that they really mean collaboration in this thing. I'm not 100% sure where they're putting it, but I think it's in here. If you're able to highlight for me what you think the strategy looks like in your lesson, that'll help. And then at the end, you're going to type at the end of it, whichever format you're using for your lesson plan, you're going to put in a small reflection, and there's some directions on that as well. Any questions with that piece? Yay, okay. This whole class is set up for you to look at, let me see which one I have up here. The whole class is really set up for you to be able to investigate how learning theory plays out with different strategies that you could use within the classroom, and how the theory connects to the practices that you are incorporating within your classroom, as well as the practices that you, sorry, as well as the practices that you will be using with this. So I do want to talk about that really briefly. How many of you have had your Ed Psych class already? Have a lot of you had your Ed Psych class? Okay, so if you've had your Ed Psych class, you should be familiar with these. These learning theories, which I'm assuming that you have had them. If you've not had them, then get into this PowerPoint, kind of look at it a little bit more, Google search, learning theories, anything like that, because there's 5 typical theories that people use whenever they're talking about education, that we are going to be trying to tie these practices and what these strategies and what you do in your classroom as a practice to them. So the theories that we're talking about are behavioral learning. Behavioral learning is a lot of times associated with drill and kill things. So if you're talking about students working on flashcards, students practicing math problems, students doing sometimes like the typing spelling drills, those kind of things, a lot of times those will tie directly with the behavioral learning theory. The people that you probably talked about this with in your classes with Ed Psych are Skinner, Thorndike, Pavlov. I had a really cute cartoon, but I don't remember, I can't find it on my phone now. Again, it was on Facebook. It was about Pavlov and the dogs drooling. And that's a classical experiment that was associated with it. The fact that when they ring the bell, the dogs drool, and because they get fed. That works with students as well. A lot of times the rewards that we use that are extrinsic are tied to that behavioral theory. And they have a nice little diagram there for you.
I'm just wondering, is the cartoon that you're talking about the one where the dogs are saying, watch this, when he rings the bell, I drool, and then he marks it down on his paper?
Yeah, something like that. It was about getting fed too.
Yeah,
Um,
it was hilarious.
yeah, I like those kind of things too, by the way. So those are behaviorism. Social learning theory is tied to Bandura for the most part. That's very, it looks at modeling, it looks at looking at mental states, hopefully motivation, being able to look at intrinsic reinforcement and how people are incorporating motivational aspects and self-determination and those kind of things. Information processing is more, it's a little bit more recent. A lot of times it's looking at some machine learning as well, in a different way than the behaviorism, where it was do this and you get a reward. It's tying it to memory structures and looking at that. The one that I like to really use, that I focus on, and I think that most of these strategies work with best, and also classroom learning a lot works best with, is social cultural learning theory and constructivism. And these are tied to Vygotsky and Piaget. Vygotsky has the zone of proximal development, where you're trying to show the students a little step ahead, and then they're modeling their behavior on it and moving into their, Piaget is looking at constructivism and how culturally people will construct their own meaning of things, and how by working together, we're going to be able to have them develop their own knowledge and knowledge structures and be able to understand what's going on because it's within this social context, which could be your classroom or the real life or whatever. There's some more slides that are in here. So if you have not had this class, this is a really great place to start looking at things. So the pieces that we are looking at within this class, we are looking at strategies that tie into collaboration. We're looking at strategies that tie into setting objectives, for providing feedback, how to structure other ways that we are providing information, the way that you're testing and assessing, all those kind of things. They tie to these learning theories in some way, shape, or form. You can identify which one you feel that the way you're using the strategy most closely associates with it. I just want you to be clear on how you feel that associates. So if I'm doing something with setting objectives and I'm giving the students a reward, and then I think that it works best with behaviorism, if you can explain to me why you think it works that way, I might tell you that I don't agree with you, but I'm not going to be marking you off as points, that you're wrong. It's going to be, I want to see that piece there where you've tried to make that association and how you're viewing it. Because I usually get a lot of people asking, how are you grading on that? So that's what I'm looking for, is that you've made your case for how you're using it and how you're seeing it, and then we can have that discussion about it. Hold on, stop share. So that's a little brief overview on theories of instruction, which you should be familiar with from your EdSci class. If you're not, that resource is there. You can Google search things. There's other people that are associated with each of these learning theories. That's just the main people that are usually brought up with it. So with your presentations that you're going to do, I want to model that for you, which is another strategy. And by modeling this for you, you can get us kind of an idea how you want to structure your presentations. You'll have about 20 minutes whenever you do your chapter presentations that you're going to work on collaboratively. There'll be 2 of you per chapter, hopefully. If not, then if there's not enough people in class, which I think there is, I will give bonus points for somebody doubling up and doing another one, although you probably won't need them. So within this class, we are looking at how students learn and how you as a teacher or you as an instructor or you as a trainer can use strategies to more closely align the principles or the objectives that you're trying to teach with the principles that you want to be modeling, the principles that you want to be using, and the knowledge that you want the students to learn. So with this, we have learning targets. What are they going to know? How are you going to do that with them? How can you help them practice reviewing it? And then how will you assess that, or how will you know that they've learned it? the strategies that we have align with these different chapters, and you can go back and forth between these to see where they line up. These strategies that are used in here, Mazzano did some studies. He also did a meta review where he looked at research results from it, and the research results indicate that using these strategies did help students increase their learning by many points, depending on the set of the meta review that it was looked at or the set of studies it was looked at. A lot of them were about 18 to 20 points difference when these strategies were used as scoring better on different tests with the students. So they are beneficial, and they are ones that when used and used properly can really help benefit your students. So within chapter 1, we're looking at setting objectives and providing feedback. We're looking at, I'm sorry, I jumped. We're looking at setting objectives. Providing feedback is actually chapter 8. We're not going to talk about that because we have enough people to have that for a chapter. So this week you're going to be designing a lesson. You're going to set your objective for the lesson. Your objective should be a well-written objective. You want to make sure that it is aligned with standards that are being used within your classroom, whether it is actually an educational knowledge-based standard or whether it's the ISTE technology standards, whether you're looking at 21st century learning. However your school or your classroom has to align with, then you should be picking something that aligns with that. If you happen to be not in a classroom setting, you can pick a work standard or you can pick a technology standard from ISTE. They also are pretty broad and you can use them. You're going to, within this, have your students personalize a goal, make it a personal goal where they're setting standards for themselves, whether they're looking at what kind of score they want to have on a test, or whether they're looking at personally they want to, do their homework every night, they want to review their notes every day, they want to be able to explain this in verbally, or they want to write a paper on it, or whatever they want to do. And then you're going to look at the learning theory that incorporates with that. Okay, so you're going to read the chapter once you get your book. You are going to think about it yourself, summarize what you find there. You are going to come up with a lesson that uses the strategy. You are going to also do these things for the class. You're going to write your philosophy. You are going to participate in this chat, and then you'll participate next week as well. The reflection that you use, I've given you the reflective practitioner model, and this has 5 separate steps that you can think about. If you are not teaching the lesson, the reflective practitioner is a little bit more difficult to fit to that, but you're just going to talk about how you plan for the lesson, how you change it from what you usually do, and how you're incorporating the strategy, and how you think it's going to benefit your student. You are going to tie it to the learning theories, and you are going to then write up your lesson plan and submit it with whatever way you want to do this. Okay, so what I want you to actually do is summarize the chapter quickly. Use a PowerPoint if you want, however you want to do this, Prezi, SlideShare, Sway, whatever method you want. I also, though, want you to concentrate the majority of your time because, honestly, everybody can read the chapter. Having everybody read the chapter and think about it, and then having you sit, on your presentation and go through the entire chapter and summarize it for everyone is not the best use of your time. What I would like you to think about as you're creating your presentation is, what are some practical examples that you have of how you could incorporate this into a learning setting, whether it's in work, whether it's in a K through 12 setting, whether it's in formal learning, or in specific subjects. You each have your expertise within the area that you work, so bring that to us. Show it, give us some examples of how you think it could be used in your setting and someone else's setting, how you've heard of it being used, ideas that it sparked that you haven't done yet that maybe would be interesting, any of these kind of things with your presentation. So if you have a 15-minute presentation, you're thinking about it as maybe 5 minutes for summary, 5 minutes or 8 minutes on how you would use this, ways that you could use it, strategies for using it, examples. Technology tools are always, I'm a technology person, so that's always great in my book. So you want to, use some technology tools, show us some of those that you think would work with this strategy. That would be a great use of your extra 5 to 8 minutes then, would be, talking about how you would use it and how you would support the learning with the students. Even how you would assess whether you actually made those. Any kind of tie like that, because everybody can read the chapter and think about how it works. So you summarizing it is great knowledge for everyone, but then actually going on and showing how it works in practice is a better use of your time than sitting there and doing that. So give me 1 second to pull up my wrong one. Here we go. Also, with the Zoom, you can share screens. So if you want to set it up so each of you have you have one PowerPoint and each of you have it up and you switch back and forth on screens, that's fine. You can also give control of your screen over to someone with this. So, like the tech people do whenever they're fixing your computer and they go in and they make the mouse move. You can do that. It's really unsettling as a teacher to have somebody else messing with your screen, I feel. But you can either talk with your person you're presenting with to have them click through the slides for you, switching off back and forth to the slides, or you can share the screen controls with people. And I'm going to share this right now. All right, so this week we are looking at setting objectives. So when you're setting objectives, there's a couple different sites. I have several of these posted within the class, but this is called the differentiator. The differentiator allows you to kind of look at the verbs that are present and the different pieces of writing a good objective, according to Anderson and Cratwall. But if you are struggling with this ever within your classroom, within your setting, or struggling with this for the class, this is a good place to go to get some ideas of words that fit into each of these categories. So they have a thinking skill. So maybe I want people to differentiate between the ethics of using a textbook and create an essay in groups of 3. Using a newspaper, maybe. Maybe I don't want an essay. Maybe I want a TV show. No group size. So that helps me come up with a way to write my objective if you're not very familiar with this. And the reason I started including this in, especially with the fact that this week for the chapter is on setting your objectives, but also there are people that are in these classes that are not education background. They're coming in from business or from, dental hygiene school, or they're instructors or, professors at a community college with a science background or within, a humanities background that are not educators. They didn't go through an education system. So writing an objective is very difficult for them. So this is one way you can try and do that. Arizona State also has this learning objectives builder that you can use. It starts right here and it walks you through how to write the objective. Some of these want you to get much more specific than what the book is talking about for the objective for it, but however your district wants your objectives written, I am fine with. If your school district is, SWABT, which is subwat, that's what mine used to have, students will be able to do this, and then they wanted to know, created needs analysis using Gilbert's performance matrix on 7 problems to an 85% pass rate. If that's how they want you to write it, I am fine with you writing it like that, even though the book says that it is too specific. Do it how your school wants you to write them. If you're having difficulty, email me and we'll talk about it. But this is another tool that you can use to help you write measurable course outcomes and objectives, and it'll walk you right through the different pieces for it and help you find the pieces that you need to find. This is a website also, and I'll put all these into the class. Here's apps if you're looking for technology ever. These are the iPad apps and the Android ones, and then online tools. This is a Kathy Schrock. If you've never heard of Kathy Schrock, Guide to Everything, it is amazing. But this gives you different tools for use in any of these. They're not the only ones that can be used, but they're very helpful to help you think really broadly. Like if I want to evaluate something, maybe I want to provide peer feedback. Maybe I want to be using a Google Doc and I want to have the students commenting. Maybe I want to put them in groups on a Hangout and have them comment and save the chat for it. So this is a really great website for that. GoFormative is a really cool tool. It is free. You can drop things in and it gives you like a little test you can create or something like that. What I like is like, if I wanted to do this with dot diagrams for chemistry, I could have them, you know, here's magnesium. And I'm using my trackpad and it's not cooperating really well. So if I had a mouse, it works a little bit better for this. So maybe I have a dot here and I've got a dot here. And then I have chlorine. And chlorine has, I'm using slashes because my wiggly dots are not working very well. But I can draw these in, and here's my other chlorine. For any of you that don't know what I'm doing, this is a dot diagram for it. And those are my dots. They just look really pathetic. All right. So this right here, goes to here. This dot right here goes to there. And now I have two charges, and this is what I do. Okay, so I'm done. This goes to you as a teacher. You can comment on it. You can send it back to them. And the nice thing about formative is you can set it up aligned to standards and benchmarks, and it keeps track of where the students are at on it, whether they're proficient from the assignment that they've turned in or whatever. But you can have a go back and forth with this one. For any of you in elementary school, through high school or through college, Seesaw will do some of this stuff as well. It's really a cool one. You can set the objectives, and then it allows the students to see what they're supposed to do, and then you can provide feedback on that. Where's the last one here? Here's another one on writing objectives. It talks about who, what, how, and hit the next, and then it gives it to you. For each of these, gives you some examples. This works really well for business settings. They tend to have non-traditional students listed in here. And then this is a list of measurable verbs that go along with Bloom's taxonomy levels. Here's a learning outcome generator. So maybe you do want electron dot diagrams. We want to use Bloom's taxonomy because things, honestly, I think it's a business one. It's not one that I'm really familiar with. I want them to create these dot diagrams, and I want them to, I guess I want them to generate them. That's not the best, but you know, you get the kind of the idea. So it helps you structure it. If you say not quite yet, it'll kick you back through and it'll allow you to do it again. Instructional Designers Association is a quality control website. This is for more non-K-12, and it helps a little bit with that. And last one, here's another objective builder that please come in here, and it gives you some examples and allows you to click through and put your pieces in. I will post all of those within the class. I have a few listed already from that group, but I will post the rest of them. So that gives you a few ways with technology, because that's my focus right now, that would allow you to help write some objectives, and you could talk about how you can use these within the classroom. For example, having students set goals. Within this chapter, I want to do all of my homework. Within this chapter, with this week, I want to practice my chemical symbols 2 nights a week, 2 nights this week. I want to get an 80% on my chemical test on Thursday. Having students write these goals or set these goals helps them focus their learning and helps them personalize it in a way that has some meaning to them and not just to the teacher. Setting objectives can be something as simple as writing it up on the board whenever the students walk in. Today we are going to aesthetically blow things up in lab, you know. So maybe that's what you're going to put on the board today. Or maybe we're going to say, today we're going to explore a murder mystery before How to Catch a Murderer was on TV. You know, maybe you're looking at Poe's Telltale Heart or something like that. Or, you know, today we're going to mentally play in the snow with Wallace Stevens. You know, whatever you're going to be doing for it, having this objective for the students that, you know, they're going to understand what it means to be alone. Maybe have them connect it to their own time of, you know, being alone or being, you know, by themselves somewhere or something like that, and then have them take that experience, tie it to the objective you placed on the board, and then tie it to the work that they're doing, maybe reading Wallace Stevens' Snowman. So all of these things can work together to help give your students a target to see where they're driving to, and then personalize it so it's, you know, being in their own car versus their grandma's car or something they don't want to be in. So that's the ways that I think about that. Very long-winded way of saying, here's some ideas of how you want to run your presentations, but short, because we want to be out of here by 9 o'clock at night because everybody has a lot of other things to do. As much as I like having you in class, and I will run over with you, I know that it's difficult for a lot of you to make the time to actually be here, so I appreciate that. Does anybody have any questions? Not pretty say cheese.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Sure.
If we teach more than one class, should we be writing lessons like for one class so you can see consistently working with one class? Like if I teach algebra and I teach algebra and accelerated algebra, should I focus on writing lessons for just one of those classes?
That's up to you.
Okay, I'm just wondering.
Yeah, well, I hate to say, yes, focus on all one, because you can do the unit plan then at the end and just incorporate all of them together. But what I find is that some of the strategies work really well for some classes, but not for others.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Or in your head, you think that this would really work great for this group of kids, but not really good for this group of kids. And I do think they can be applied across the curriculum and across age groups really well, but it's up to you. I am fine with however you pick it. It could be all the same class, it can be all the same area, it can be 10 different ones.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. In week one, in the weekly tasks, there is, to answer the question in chat, which was on where is the sign up for it. In week one, at the bottom of the long scroll of death from week one assignments and pieces of materials, there's a little tiny box that says sign up for chapter presentations here. It's a Google Doc. And if I have it still pulled up, let me get the link here. Thank you. But there's our link. So if you click on that, it'll take you to it as well. Any other questions? Anything else you want to talk about? All right. To get out of here, you can click on End Meeting over in the bottom corner. I'm going to stop recording now.